but we're talking Koch Agronomic Services. We're talking nitrogen stabilizers. My name is Moe Agostino, Chief Commodity Strategist with Farms.com, Risk Management, host of the 2023 Great Ontario Yield Tour. We're in Woodstock Outdoor Farm Show, well, now called Discovery Farm. We're one day ahead of our final event to the tour. We're going to release our final yield results for Ontario, and we wanted to get in a little bit more detail about the Koch nitrogen stabilizer products like ANVOL and TRIBUNE, and it's all about protecting that nitrogen loss. We get it, you know, some years in wet years, some years in dry years, and so I wanted both Bryce and Timothy Laatsch to provide more details as to why you should use these products.
Yeah, so Mo, when we apply either urea or UAN to the soil surface, or even when it's shallow incorporated, as that material hydrolyzes and makes the nitrogen available to the crop, we can lose a lot of nitrogen to volatilization loss, probably more than most farmers think is possible to lose. And so, you know, you look at a couple decades of studies at volatilization loss that have been done, really worldwide. What we would normally see is about up to a potential 30% loss from surface applied urea. And so what this product, ANVOL, is designed to do is really slow down the hydrolysis of urea and prevent and minimize the volatilization loss to the atmosphere. If you think about the economics of a 30% loss of urea to the atmosphere, that, if you put on 200 pounds on your corn crop, will translate through to 60 pounds of loss. And all you have to do is, you know, look at the nitrogen removal in a bushel of grain. That translates to a lot of bushels. It's a very powerful ROI, and it's really that, you know, you don't lose that much every time you put nitrogen out there, but that one catastrophic loss year will help pay for the risk protection on the years when you lose less. And so it is a consistently strong ROI when you use stabilizers over the long term on your farm.
And so the other product, TRIBUNE, so that's what falls into the dual inhibitor, which has really been the talk of the town lately. Everyone wants to talk about dual inhibitors and how that's protecting. So TRIBUNE is that. So it does have that urease inhibitor, but also that nitrification inhibitor. So it's going to provide all those benefits that Tim just talked about in terms of volatilization losses, but it also has, with that nitrification inhibitor, protects from some of the other losses that we don't see quite so much of, which is the denitrification losses. So this is really one of those ones where we start to see N2 or nitrous oxide that can be lost, as well as leaching as it sits there in nitrate. And when you want to be using that is really early in the season, when that corn crop isn't going to be using as much of that nitrogen. You get those big rainfalls that come through. That's when you're going to see those nitrification losses that are happening through denitrification, saturated soils. And by using a dual inhibitor, that's going to help protect that. So that way you're not going to have as much of your nitrogen in that nitrate form early on in the season, and then it'll become nitrate a little bit later, and that's going to allow that corn crop to make the most of it right as it's going through that rapid growth.
So forgive me if this is a dumb question, guys, but I'm not a farmer. I'm a marketing expert, but I listen a lot, and what I'm hearing from you is that you got to use both, correct? Both products on the corn? Or do you just use one? So do you use the ANVOL early and then the TRIBUNE, or?
So most of the time you're probably going to get away with one. It's really going to depend on your nitrogen, how you're applying it. So really in that early season nitrogen application, that's when TRIBUNE is going to really benefit. If you're going to come in with some top dressing later on, that's really where ANVOL is going to shine, because you're going to have to put that on the surface. You're putting UAN or you're broadcasting urea or something. When that goes on the surface, that's where ANVOL is going to really shine. But that early season, if you're going with UAN up front early, you're knifing it in, that's where TRIBUNE's really going to shine and protect your nitrogen for you.
Obviously timing's critical, but does it work better in wet years or dry years, or both? It doesn't matter.
For volatilization loss, there is a common misperception that it occurs because of rainfall. And rainfall certainly can be an instigator of volatilization loss, especially when we get something less than half an inch. So a half an inch of rainfall will incorporate the urea and really minimize volatilization loss at that point. But if we get less than 1/2 inch, it's just enough water to really drive the breakdown of urea, and that drives a lot of volatilization loss. So it really increases the risk. And so rainfall and dry versus wet is a very sort of tricky proposition to decipher on urease inhibitor. But another common misperception is that if I put it out there on dry soil, I'm going to lose more. And actually, in a very dry environment, you will lose less. You often lose more when you incorporate that urea just enough to get it down into the moisture in the soil, but not deep enough to stop the loss. That's when you drive higher losses. So it's a complicated question, but moisture is certainly a factor that you have to consider as you're using the product.
Well, hopefully you guys learned something. I'm really looking forward to the demo tomorrow, guys. It was one of our demo presentations out east last year for our tour, and it was a farmer favorite. So thanks, guys.